Wisdom, that's the test. Which rival wisdom team is best? 52 teams of 8 antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. Team 4, grow into your best. Quote definitions, biographical context, and synergy analysis. ReplaceHate.org, motivationaleducation.com, guidealife.com. Quote 4.1. Kindness is the sunshine in which virtue grows. Robert G. Ingersoll, 1833 to 1899. Quote definition. Virtue, the genuine moral excellence of character, does not develop in harsh or barren conditions, but in the warmth of genuine kindness. Just as plants require sunlight to convert potential into growth, human virtue requires an environment of genuine kindness to develop from its latent form into its express reality. Kindness is not the reward for virtue already achieved, but the condition in which virtue becomes achievable. Quote application. The mission of making America kinder is not a supplement to the project of making it wiser. It is the sunshine that the Wisdom Growing Project requires. Communities cannot grow into genuine moral excellence under conditions of contempt, division, and cruelty any more than plants can grow in darkness. Every act of genuine kindness is creating the conditions in which the human virtue the mission is cultivating can actually take root and grow. Robert Greene Ingersoll was born in 1833 in Dresden, New York, the son of a Congregationalist minister, and became the most celebrated American orator of the post-Civil War era, known as the Great Agnostic for his free-thought lectures that attracted audiences of thousands across the country. He was simultaneously a Republican Party operative who gave the famous Plume Night speech nominating James G. Blaine for president in 1876, a passionate advocate for civil rights and women's suffrage, and the most eloquent American critic of Orthodox religion of his generation. His observation about kindness as virtue's sunshine reflects the genuine warmth beneath his iconoclastic public persona. He has spent his career arguing that genuine human goodness required the conditions of freedom and genuine care rather than the fear of punishment that he believed Orthodox religion substituted. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Understand kindness not as a reward distributed to those who have already achieved virtue, but as the environmental condition that makes virtue possible. Create the sunshine and the growth follows. 2. Apply this to the mission's community work. The wisdom education that the mission provides will grow most effectively in communities where genuine kindness creates the conditions for genuine moral development. 3. Recognize that building kind communities is not a separate project from building wise ones, but the same project. The sunshine and the growing are inseparable, and the mission that creates kindness is creating the conditions for the wisdom it is simultaneously trying to cultivate.
Quote 4.2. Goodness is the only investment that never fails. Henry David Thoreau, 1817 to 1862. Quote definition. Every other investment, financial, social, reputational, material, is subject to failure. Markets collapse, relationships dissolve, reputations are destroyed, materials decay. Genuine goodness, the actual moral quality of honest, caring, integrity-grounded living, is the one investment that produces returns regardless of circumstance and that no external force can cause to fail because its return is intrinsic rather than dependent on market conditions. Quote application. For the mission, Thoreau's never-failing investment is both a personal operating principle and a strategic one. The investment in genuine goodness, in honest wisdom education, in genuine community care, in real integrity in every dealing, will produce returns even when the measurable metrics do not confirm it, because the return of goodness is intrinsic rather than externally validated. Invest in goodness. It is the only investment that never fails. Henry David Thoreau, born in 1817 in Concord, Massachusetts, and educated at Harvard, Thoreau spent his life in Concord, surveying, writing, lecturing, and living with the deliberateness that made him both admired and exasperating. His 2 years at Walden Pond were the practical experiment of the principle his observation names. He invested in goodness, in honest, simple living, in genuine attention to what mattered, in the refusal to participate in the economy of compromise, and found that the return was exactly what he had invested in, reliably and without fail. He died at 44, having produced Walden and Civil Disobedience, investments in goodness that have been paying compound interest ever since. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Treat genuine goodness, honest dealing, genuine care, integrity in every small choice as the primary investment rather than a supplementary virtue, because it is the only one whose return is guaranteed by its own nature rather than by external conditions. 2. Apply the never-failing investment standard to the mission's own operations. Invest in genuine goodness at every level, genuinely honest content, genuinely caring community engagement, genuine integrity in every commitment, because this is the investment that compounds regardless of what external conditions do. 3. Use Thoreau's principle as the standing answer to the pragmatic objection that goodness is impractical. It is the only investment that never fails, which makes it the most practical available investment rather than the impractical ideal it is sometimes dismissed as.
Quote 4.3. Independence is happiness. Susan B. Anthony 1820–1906. Quote definition. Genuine happiness, not the temporary pleasure of favorable circumstance, but the deep, stable satisfaction of a life genuinely one's own, is most reliably found in the condition of genuine independence, the freedom to think one's own thoughts, make one's own choices, live by one's own genuine values rather than by externally imposed constraints on what one is allowed to be. Independence and happiness are not merely correlated, they are essentially connected. Quote application. The mission of making America wiser and kinder is a mission for genuine independence in Anthony's deepest sense. Freedom from the intellectual dependency of inherited hatred. Freedom from the emotional dependency of tribal belonging that requires an enemy. Freedom from the social dependency of conformity to what the surrounding community demands rather than what genuine wisdom and genuine dignity require. Independence is happiness. Wisdom education creates independence. Susan B. Anthony, born in 1820 in Adams, Massachusetts, into a Quaker family with a deep tradition of activism, Anthony spent 56 years working for women's suffrage and the full civic independence that she identified as the condition of genuine happiness. Her three-word observation, independence is happiness, is characteristic of the Quaker directness that shaped her public voice. Compressed, unequivocal, the product of a life spent fighting for exactly what she named as what genuine happiness required. She had watched enough women confined by dependence to understand what the confinement cost, and she had experienced enough of the independence she fought for to know what it provided. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Understand independence, genuine freedom to think, choose, and live by one's own genuine values, as the condition of genuine happiness rather than its luxury supplement, because the happiness built on dependence is the happiness built on what others allow. 2. Apply Anthony's independence as happiness principle to the mission's wisdom education. Every person who develops genuine independent thinking about human dignity, freed from inherited hatred, tribal conformity, and the dependency on an enemy, is being given the condition of the genuine happiness that independence makes possible. 3. Recognize that the mission's project of replacing hate with wisdom is a project of intellectual and emotional independence. The person genuinely freed from the dependency on hatred for their identity, community, and sense of safety has been given what Anthony names as happiness itself.
Quote 4.4. Good, better, best. Never let it rest, till your good is better and your better is best. St. Jerome, 347 to 420 AD. Quote definition. The relentless improvement standard, never accepting any current level of performance as final, appears here in Team 4 has now been established thoroughly enough to serve as the assumed foundation for all subsequent teams. Quote application. In Team 4's Grow Into Your Best framework, Jerome's standard takes on its fullest available meaning. All of these are applications of Jerome's foundational standard to the particular dimensions of growing into one's best self. Good, better, best is the engine. The 7 other principles of Team 4 are what it drives. St. Jerome, Eusebius Sophronius Hieronymus. After 4 teams of establishment, the good, better, best principle becomes the assumed rhythm, the way the collection breathes, rather than the explicitly stated rule. Team 4 honors Jerome's final explicit appearance by placing it at the center of the Grow Into Your Best framework. The fourth position, neither opening nor closing, but anchoring everything that grows into best in the relentless standard that makes growing toward best the permanent operating mode. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Receive Team 4's Jerome as the final explicit statement and the permanent implicit assumption. From here forward, the good, better, best standard is the ground every other principle stands on, named or unnamed. 2. Apply the relentless standard specifically to the Growing Into Your Best project. The best self is approached through the relentless improvement of the good self that exists now, through the better self that the next stage of development produces, never resting, always moving. 3. Carry Jerome's standard forward as the collection's permanent background rhythm. Every team from 5 onward operates on the assumption that good, better, best is the foundation, and the Grow Into Your Best work that Team 4 begins never stops, in any team, at any stage.
Quote 4.5. Man arrives as a novice at each age of his life. Nicholas Chamfort, 1741 to 1794. Quote definition. Each new stage of life, each decade, each major transition, each genuinely new circumstance, is encountered by the person who enters it as a genuine beginner in that particular experience, regardless of the expertise they have accumulated in earlier stages. The wisdom of 30 does not automatically confer competence at 60. The mastery of one role does not eliminate the novicehood of the next. Every stage begins with the genuine openness of one who has not been here before. Quote application. Growing into your best requires Chamfort's honest recognition that the arrival at each new stage is a genuine novice arrival, an invitation to the fresh engagement and genuine learning that expert status in the previous stage might otherwise prevent. The mission's wisdom education is valuable at every age precisely because every age arrives as a novice at its own particular challenges, and the wisdom that helps is genuinely needed fresh at each new stage. Nicholas Chamfort's observations about conviction as the mind's conscience and the malady of not knowing one's own ignorance anchored those frameworks. Born in 1741 near Clermont-Ferrand, France, educated brilliantly, and becoming one of the wittiest men in Paris before the Revolution, Chamfort welcomed the Revolution and then found himself targeted by the terror's increasingly indiscriminate violence. His observation about arriving as a novice at each age came from a man who had experienced the jarring novicehood of each new stage, childhood poverty, then sudden literary celebrity, then revolutionary enthusiasm, then revolutionary terror, and who had concluded that none of his previous expertise in navigating earlier stages had adequately prepared him for the genuinely new requirements of each subsequent one. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Embrace the novice status at each new stage of life as the honest condition of genuine learning rather than the embarrassment of expertise not yet achieved. Every new stage genuinely requires its own fresh engagement. 2. Apply Chamfort's novice principle to the mission's work across generations. Reach people at every age with the wisdom they need for their particular stage, because every stage arrives as a novice at its own challenges and every stage needs its own relevant wisdom. 3. Recognize that growing into your best is a permanently ongoing process precisely because each new stage of the best is a genuine novice arrival. The best is never finally achieved because the stage at which best is possible keeps changing.
Quote 4.6. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Harriet Tubman, 1822 to 1913. Quote definition. Great achievements, the ones that genuinely change what the world contains, begin with a single person who holds the vision of what is not yet real with sufficient conviction that the vision becomes the organizing force of everything they do. The dreamer is not passive or impractical, but the necessary origin of the great work that eventually makes the dream real. No dreamer, no dream. No dream, no great achievement. Quote application. The mission of making America wiser and kinder begins with dreamers, the people who hold the vision of a genuinely wiser and kinder America clearly enough and long enough that the vision organizes everything they build toward it. Every workbook produced, every community engaged, every wisdom principle shared is the dream of genuine human dignity being systematically converted from vision into reality by the dreamers who hold it with sufficient conviction. Harriet Tubman was born into slavery around 1822 in Dorchester County, Maryland. The exact date is uncertain, as enslaved people's births were rarely officially recorded. Escaped to the North in 1849 and returned to the South 19 times over the following decade to lead approximately 70 people to freedom through the Underground Railroad. She served as a spy, scout, and nurse for the Union Army during the Civil War, led a military raid at Combahee Ferry that liberated 700 enslaved people, and spent her later years advocating for women's suffrage. She was called Moses by those she freed, the dreamer who led people from slavery to freedom. Her observation that every great dream begins with a dreamer is autobiographical. She was the dreamer whose vision of freedom, held with sufficient conviction to return 19 times to the place of her own captivity, began and sustained the great work that the dream required. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Honor the dreamer's role as the necessary origin of every great achievement. The person who holds the vision when it is not yet real, with sufficient conviction that the vision organizes everything they build toward making it real. 2. Apply Tubman's dreamer origin principle to the mission. Every person who holds the vision of an America genuinely wiser and kinder, clearly, consistently, with organizing conviction, is the dreamer from whom the great work begins. 3. Recognize that the dream must be held with sufficient conviction to sustain 19 return trips to the place of greatest danger. The dreamer's vision is not passive aspiration, but the active organizing force that converts vision into the sustained effort that eventually makes it real.
Quote 4.7. He knows not his own strength that has not met adversity. Ben Jonson, 1572 to 1637. Quote definition. Genuine strength, the actual capacity to endure, to persist, to hold under pressure, is not knowable from comfortable conditions alone. It is revealed only by the genuine test that adversity provides, because strength without the test of adversity is potential rather than demonstrated reality. The person who has not met adversity does not know their own strength, because they have not yet seen what their strength actually is when it is genuinely required. Quote application. Growing into your best requires the adversity that reveals what you actually are, not what you imagine you might be in comfortable conditions, but what genuine difficulty demonstrates about your genuine capacity. The mission's work in resistant communities, through slow progress and genuine setbacks, is the adversity that reveals and builds the strength the mission actually has rather than the strength it imagines it possesses in favorable conditions. Ben Jonson, born in 1572 in London, Jonson spent time in prison for killing a fellow actor in a duel, had a T burned into his thumb at Tyburn, the traditional mark for those who escape the gallows by pleading benefit of clergy, and continued producing the greatest comedies of the Shakespearean era, Volpone, The Alchemist, Bartholomew Fair, from a position of continuous professional competition and occasional personal catastrophe. He knew his own strength because he had met adversity repeatedly and specifically, and his observation about the unknowability of strength without adversity's test came from a man who had been given the test in forms few people encounter, and who had discovered repeatedly what his strength actually was. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Receive adversity as the revealer of genuine strength rather than the obstacle to its expression, because strength not tested is strength not yet known, and the test is the only available means of knowing what is actually there. 2. Apply Jonson's strength revelation principle to the mission's difficulties. Every resistant community, every period of slow progress, every genuine setback is revealing and building the actual strength the mission has, which only the test can demonstrate. 3. Recognize that growing into your best requires the adversity that shows you what you are, not just the favorable conditions that allow you to perform what you imagine yourself to be. Genuine best is what holds under the test, not what looks best in the absence of it.
Quote 4.8. Aim for the highest. Andrew Carnegie, 1835 to 1919. Quote definition. The single most compressed available statement of aspirational ambition. Not aim high or aim for your highest, but aim for the highest, the absolute, superlative, the maximum available aspiration, the direction that has no qualifier limiting how high the aim goes. It is 3 words and complete. The direction, aim, the destination, the highest, and the instruction to combine them without any qualifying, but be realistic, or, within reason, softening the aspiration. Quote application. Team forecloses with Carnegie's absolute aspiration as the culminating statement of the grow into your best framework. Not a high that is comfortable or reachable without effort, but the highest available, pursued without apology for the scale of the aspiration. Andrew Carnegie was born in 1835 in Dunfermline, Scotland, emigrated to Pennsylvania at 13 with his family in genuine poverty, worked as a bobbin boy in a cotton factory at $1.20 per week, and built through a combination of extraordinary intelligence, relentless networking, and the ruthless efficiency of the steel industry, the largest personal fortune in the world by the time he sold Carnegie Steel in 1901 for $480 million. He then spent the rest of his life giving it away, building 2,509 public libraries around the world, funding Carnegie Hall, endowing universities, establishing the Carnegie Foundation for the advancement of teaching. His instruction to aim for the highest was not abstract philosophy, but autobiographical description. He had aimed for the highest at every stage, achieved it, and then aimed for the highest available use of what the achievement had produced. His personal philanthropic mission, the man who dies rich, dies disgraced, was itself the highest aim applied to what wealth was for. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Take the highest aim without qualification, not the realistic aim, not the cautious aim, not the aim that accounts in advance for the resistance that will need to be overcome, but the highest aim that the genuine aspiration can sustain. 2. Apply Carnegie's absolute aspiration to the mission. Aim not for slightly less hatred in some communities, but for genuine wisdom, not for slightly more tolerance, but for genuine kindness, not for incremental improvement, but for the highest available transformation of what American communities are capable of. 3. Close Team 4 with the complete statement. Grow into your best by creating kindness, sunshine, Ingersoll, investing in never-failing goodness, Thoreau, securing the independence that is happiness, Anthony, improving relentlessly, Jerome, arriving fresh at each new stage, Chamfort, dreaming the great dream, Tubman, meeting adversity to know your strength, Johnson, and aim for the highest, Carnegie.
How they work together as a unified philosophy. The grow into your best framework. Conditions layer, kindness as sunshine and goodness as the only sure investment, quotes 1, 2. Ingersoll, establish the environmental condition in which growing into your best becomes possible, kindness as the sunshine that virtue requires, making the creation of kindness the prerequisite of the moral growth the mission cultivates. Thoreau, provide the investment principle that growing into your best is built on, goodness is the only investment that never fails, making genuine goodness the foundation whose return is intrinsic and guaranteed regardless of external conditions. Together, the conditions and the foundation of growing into your best. Ingersoll's kindness sunshine creates the environment in which moral growth becomes possible. Without it, virtue remains potential rather than expressed reality. Thoreau's never-failing goodness investment is what grows in that sunshine, the one investment whose return is guaranteed by its own nature rather than by market conditions. Create the sunshine, invest in what grows in it, the growth follows. Freedom and standard layer, independence as happiness and the highest standard, quotes 3, 4. Anthony, establish the condition of genuine happiness that growing into your best serves, independence, the genuine freedom to think, choose, and live by one's own genuine values, making wisdom education the path to the freedom that happiness requires. Jerome, provide the standard that directs the growing, good better best, never at rest, in its final explicit team appearance, establishing it as the assumed floor from which all subsequent growing proceeds. Together, the freedom and the standard of growing into your best. Anthony's independence is happiness establishes what the growing is for, genuine freedom, genuine self-determination, genuine happiness, the highest available human condition. Jerome's relentless standard establishes how to get there, through the never-resting improvement that converts good into better and better into best. Freedom as the destination, relentless improvement as the path. Openness and vision layer, novice at each age and every great dream's origin, quotes 5, 6. Chamfort, provide the honest self-assessment that genuine growing requires, arriving as a novice at each new age, making the openness of genuine beginner's mind the condition of the learning that growing into best demands at every stage. Tubman, establish the vision that sustains growing through difficulty. Every great dream begins with a dreamer, making the clearly held vision of what is not yet real the organizing force that converts novice openness into sustained purposeful growth. Together, the openness and the vision of growing into your best. Chamfort's novice arrival ensures that the growing remains genuine, each new stage approached with the fresh openness that genuine learning requires rather than the closed expertise that previous stage mastery might impose. Tubman's dreamer origin provides the vision that makes that open arrival purposeful, the clearly held dream that gives the novice's fresh engagement its direction and its sustaining conviction. Strength and aspiration layer, adversity revealing strength and aiming highest, quote 7, 8. Johnson, establish the necessary test that genuine growing into best requires, adversity revealing the strength not known in comfortable conditions, making difficulty not the obstacle to growing into best but the revealer of what the best actually is. Carnegie, close the framework with the absolute aspiration, aim for the highest, completing the grow into your best arc with the direction that has no qualifying ceiling on how high the growing aims. Together, the test and the ultimate direction of growing into your best. Johnson's adversity reveals the strength that comfortable conditions only imagine. The genuine best is what holds under the test, not what performs best in its absence. Carnegie's highest aim is the direction that the tested strength serves, not a measured achievable target but the absolute superlative that leaves no ceiling on how high the growing goes. Test the strength, aim for the highest the tested strength can reach.
Free Easy Extra Advantage Math, Spelling and Reading Workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com or buy at educationstopshate.com. Free Easy Math Wisdom Workbooks with octo repetition to grow math self-confidence. You'll get plenty of repetitive practice of age ranges and averages of our 52 teams of 8 quote authors. Free Easy Alpha Cipher-coded puzzles teach letters, numbers and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. Can you decode this cipher quote of encouragement using either our Learning to Spell or just for fun instructions? And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate and entertain generations for centuries. We offer printed versions and timed videos with background music. Sign up for free weekly emails of 52 teams of antique rival wisdom workbooks with easy math, spelling and reading practice. And, if you'd like to get paid for sharing our wearable wisdoms, keep this in mind. Everyone I know wears a shirt, and most of us change them daily, so change your shirt and change the world. Social equalities are blatantly subliminal antique positive wisdoms repetitively shared without saying a word. This applies to all our wearable shareable wisdoms. Like pretty witty baby onesies and baby tees that you and others will see and read multiple times a day. The same is true with pretty witty kids, but they'll also share these wisdoms with anyone that can read at daycare or school. Youthful truths let your kids gain confidence sharing antique wisdoms with their friends. Imagine them sharing words of wisdom with classmates and teachers. Therefore I think tees I wear is a super easy way to share words of wisdom that have passed the test of time. Our social equalities help make us all wiser and kinder with blatantly subliminal messages promoting a more fair and equal opportunity society for all. And don't forget our giftwisdoms.com for birthdays and holidays that makes it easy to share the wisdom with clothing, coffee mugs and magnets. So do the future a favor by encouraging, educating and entertaining with words of wisdom that have passed the test of time to make us all wiser and kinder. With wearable wisdoms to fit babies, kids and adults. You can clothe a whole family, city or state. Join the 52 of 8 today.